Hello dear students. In our previous session, we discussed about parts of speech and we have studied the first parts of speech, that is noun and its types. So in this session, let us continue with the next part of speech, that is pronoun. So what is a pronoun? Pronoun is a word used instead of a noun. Pronoun is used to replace the noun. Pronoun takes the place of a noun. And pronoun is also used to avoid the repetitions of nouns in a sentence. But how? Let us understand this with an example. So here in this sentence, Manasa is absent because Manasa is ill. As I told, a pronoun is used to avoid the repetitions of noun in a sentence. Here, Manasa is a subject. Manasa is a noun. As I told, the pronouns are used to avoid the repetitions of noun. Here we should know what is a noun. Manasa is a noun. To avoid the repetition of this particular noun, we use a pronoun. Then now you can understand where are we supposed to use the pronouns. So Manasa is absent because Manasa is ill. Instead of Manasa, since we have to avoid the repetition of the word Manasa, of the noun Manasa, instead of her name, we have to use she, because Manasa is a girl. So in order to avoid the repetition of the nouns in a sentence, we use pronoun. If you have Raju, so here instead of repeating the same name Raju, we have to use he, because Raju is a boy. So a pronoun is used instead of a noun and it is used to avoid the repetitions of the nouns. So let us now understand some of the important types of pronouns. So what are they? The first one is personal pronoun. Personal pronouns. And the second one, reflexive pronoun. And the next one is emphatic pronoun. Emphatic pronoun. Next one, demonstrative pronoun. And next one, relative pronoun. Relative pronoun. So these are the important types of pronouns. Let us understand the types of pronouns one by one. First one is personal pronouns. What are the personal pronouns? Personal pronouns are I, we, you, he, she, it, and they. So I, we, you, he, she, it, and they are called as personal pronouns because they stand for three persons. First person, second person, and third person. So I and we come under the first person and you come under the second person. He, she, it, and they come under the third person. Here I is singular pronoun whereas we is plural. So I and we come in first person, I is singular, we is plural. Whereas in the second person, you is both singular and plural. In third person, you have he, she, it. These three, he, she, it, are the singular pronouns in third person, whereas they is the only plural pronoun in third person. Personal pronouns come under three persons, first person, second person, and third person. Let us go to the next one, reflexive pronouns. What are reflexive pronouns? I'll just write the examples for reflexive pronouns like myself, himself, herself, ourselves, themselves, etc. So these are called as reflexive pronouns. Let us make it clear this with an example. I hurt myself. So here I is subject, hurt, verb, and myself is a pronoun. So why these are called as reflexive pronoun? Because when the action, See, heard is a verb, verb is an action word. So, when the action of the subject, subject here, I, when the action of the subject turns back upon the subject, it is a reflexive pronoun. Okay, when the action of the subject turns back upon the subject, it is called as a reflexive pronoun. So let us next go to the emphatic pronouns. So what is an emphatic pronoun, or what do you mean by emphatic pronouns? Emphatic pronouns are used for the sake of emphasis. So the examples are the same: myself, himself, herself, ourselves, themselves. Though the examples are same, it is quite different. Let us make it clear with an example. I myself saw him running. So here in this sentence, you can understand the word myself is a pronoun, and that too an emphatic pronoun. Here this myself is used to emphasize on the subject. Here subject says I myself. He is emphasizing and he is making sure that he has himself seen the other person running. So these emphatic pronouns are used for the sake of emphasis. And the next one is demonstrative pronouns. So what are the demonstrative pronouns? Demonstrative pronouns are like this, that, those, such, etc. So these pronouns, these demonstrative pronouns are used to point out the object to which they refer to. The next one is relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are like who, what, which, that, etc. So relative pronouns are used to relate or to refer to the subjects going before. So these are the relative pronouns. There are other types of pronouns, and we will learn more about them when we deal with your workbook. So we studied the pronouns and its types. Let us now study one of the most important parts of speech, that is a verb. So what is a verb? Verb is an action word. Verb is an action word. A verb is a word used to denote an action of a subject. And a verb mainly tells us what a person or thing does in a sentence. What a person or thing does in a sentence. Next, what is done to a person or thing. A verb also tells us what is done to a person or thing. The next, verb also tells us what a person or thing is. A verb tells us what a person or thing does, what is done to a person or thing, what a person or thing is in a sentence. I have already told you verb is an action word. Let us make it clear with these examples. A verb tells us what a person or thing does in a sentence. Let us take this example. Hari laughs. So what a person does. What does he do? He laughs. And next, what is done to a person or thing? Let us take this example. The window is broken. So what has happened to the subject here? The window is a subject, so the window is broken. What has happened? The window is broken. Thus, a verb also tells us what is done to a person or thing in a sentence. Next one, what a person or thing is. What a person, like if I say Hari is dead. Hari is dead. What a person is in a sentence. Here it shows the state of being. It shows the state. State of being is nothing but the situation, the present situation. So Hari is dead. What is he? Now he is dead. The present situation or the state of being. So let us understand the verb with some examples. First one, Hari plays cricket. And the next one is, the boys are playing cricket. So I have already told you that verb is the most important part of speech in English language, and that is for two reasons. One, in every sentence there must be a verb. You can't have a sentence without a verb in a sentence. And the next one is, only verbs have tenses. Let us make it clear. Here Hari plays cricket. In the first example, Hari plays cricket, and you have the word play, which is a verb. The word play is a verb. And the next one, the boys are playing cricket. You have two verbs in the second sentence. Are is also a verb and playing is also another verb. Now we have to understand the difference between these two sentences. In the first sentence, the word play is a verb, and that too, the verb play is a principal verb. Principal verb. Now you may ask, what is a principal verb? A principal verb occurs within a sentence and completes the action on its own. Here you have only one verb, that is play, and it has completed its function on its own. It does not take the help of any other verbs to complete the action. So the verb play is a principal verb. Next, what is the other verb? In the second sentence, you have the boys are playing cricket. You have two verbs. The word are is also a verb. But what type of verb is it? The word are is an auxiliary verb. It is an auxiliary verb. So what is an auxiliary verb? An auxiliary verb is also known as helping verb. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. And in every sentence there should be a verb. You must have either principal verb or auxiliary verb. And here the word are is an auxiliary verb, and you also have the principal verb. And here you can understand that the verb are is an auxiliary verb, and an auxiliary verb always takes the help of another verb to complete the action. Here are has taken the help of a principal verb play to complete its action. But whereas in the first sentence, the verb play does not take the help of any other verb to complete the action. So now I hope you have understood a principal verb occurs within a sentence and completes the action on its own, but whereas the auxiliary verb, it always takes the help of another verb to complete the action in a sentence. So let us now understand more about auxiliary verbs. When we study the auxiliary verb, we have to understand the two varieties of auxiliary verbs. The first one is primary auxiliary verb, and the next one is modal auxiliary verb. So auxiliary verb also known as helping verbs. The first one is primary auxiliary verb. So these primary auxiliary verbs come under the forms of be, have and do. So under be you have am, is, are, was and were. So am, is, are, was and were come under be, and have, has and had come under have. In the last one you have do. In primary auxiliary verb you have do, does, did. So primary auxiliary verbs come under three different forms. First one be form, have form and do form. Under be form you have am, is, are, was and were. Under have form you have, has and had. And under do form you have do, does, did. The next is modal auxiliary verb. What are the modal auxiliary verbs? Modal auxiliary verbs are will, would, can, could, may, might, shall and should. Shall and should, etc. So these are will, would, can, could, may, might, shall, should. These are modal auxiliary verbs. Let us now move on to the important types of verbs. So there are two important types of verbs. The first one is transitive verb and intransitive verb. Intransitive verb. First one transitive and an intransitive verb. What is a transitive verb? Let us understand these two terms with an example. The professor teaches his students. The professor teaches his students. This is an example for transitive verb. And for intransitive verb, the baby laughs. In the first sentence, the professor is a subject and the word teaches is a verb and his students is an object. Whereas in the second sentence, you have the subject and a verb. You have the subject and verb. You don't have an object in the second sentence. You can now understand the difference between transitive and intransitive verb. And you can make difference between these two sentences. So in the first sentence, you have an object. Whereas in the second sentence, you don't have any object. So you can make the difference between these two terms, transitive and intransitive verb. A verb which has an object in the sentence is transitive verb, which doesn't have an object in the sentence, it is an intransitive verb. And another definition that I could give you is, if the action of the subject passes over to the object, then this verb is considered to be transitive verb. If the action of the subject passes over to the object, it is a transitive verb. Transitive is nothing but passing over. So if the action of the subject passes over to the object, it is a transitive verb. If the action of the subject, here laugh, is a verb and an action that shows an action. So if the action of the subject does not pass over to the object, it is an intransitive verb. So we have studied the verb and its types. Let us now move on to the next part of speech, that is adverb. So what is an adverb? Adverb is a word used to modify the meaning of a verb, an adjective and an adverb. Let us understand this with some examples. In the first sentence, you have she writes quickly. Here the word quickly is an adverb which modifies the meaning of a verb writes. Here in the first sentence, the word she is a subject, writes a verb, it is an action word, and the word quickly is an adverb. So the word quickly adds something to the meaning of a verb. So an adverb is used to add something to the meaning of a verb. So here the word quickly modifies the meaning of a verb writes. The next, I have also told that an adverb is a word used to modify the meaning of a verb and an adjective. So Madhavi is very beautiful. Here Madhavi is a subject, is a verb, and beautiful is an adjective. It is an adjective. So an adverb is also used to modify the meaning of an adjective. Here Madhavi is beautiful. But here the word very, an adverb adding something to the meaning of an adjective. It modifies the meaning of the adjective beautiful. The adverb very shows that Madhavi is beautiful. She is very beautiful. So the word very is an adverb. In the next sentence, he explains the poem fairly well. So here he subject explains a verb, and well, it is another adverb. So he explains the poem well. So adverb is a word which can also modify the meaning of another adverb. So here fairly, another adverb. So the adverbs are used to modify the meaning of verbs, adjectives, and also another adverb. So we have understood what is an adverb. Let us now understand the important types of adverb. So adverbs are divided into 8 different parts, but here I am just going to mention 4 important types. So the first one, adverb of manner. It answers the question how. Adverb of place answers the question where. Adverb of time answers the question when. And adverb of frequency answers the question how often. How often. Let us understand these types with some examples now. So let us now see adverb of manner. I have already told you adverb of manner answers the question how. Here you have an example. They lived happily. They lived happily. So now you can ask a question. How did they live? For your question, they lived happily is the answer. Thus, the adverb of manner answers the question how. Adverb of place answers the question where. You have an example for this. She stood near the gate. Now you can ask, where did she stand? So answer is she stood near the gate. So the adverb is near. So adverb of time answers the question when. You have an example for this. He came late yesterday. When did he come? He came late yesterday. So the adverb is yesterday. And adverb of frequency answers the question how often, how many times. You have an example for this. We visited Agra twice. How many times did you visit Agra? You may ask. For that, we visited Agra twice. So the word twice is an adverb here. So dear students, today we have studied 3 important parts of speech. They are pronoun, verb, and adverb. Let us discuss the rest of the parts of speech in the following class. Thank you.